Welcome to Dance to Heal. I'm your host, Jenny C. Cohen. Join me as I share stories of how dance and movement can bring healing in a way that is safe and tailored to your life. I'm a cancer survivor, mother of two, and an award-winning performer who found that movement was vital to my recovery. I created Dance to Heal Wellness and also authored the best-selling book, Outside in Recovery, Dancing My Way Back to Myself After Breast Cancer. I will bring new techniques to help you on your dance journey and healing path. Are you ready to move? Dance to Heal starts now. Paul Zolman moved from a childhood boot camp of abuse to being a person who loves everyone. His passion is showing the world the paradigm shift of finding the good about anyone in any circumstance. Author of the book, Love is God, Paul teaches the true role of love. So thank you so much for coming and talking with me and sharing with us all your thoughts today, Paul.
Glad to be with you, Jenny. It's my pleasure.
So if you could just share with us, what kind of person do you usually work with?
And in my coaching?
Anything. Who would want to work with you, Paul? I'm going to put you on the spot.
That's great question, Jenny. And the people that want to work with me in my coaching are people that really want change in their life. They're not people that don't want change. They're not people that have been forced into it by maybe an intervention with the family. It's not that type of person. Really, it's people that actually want to change and want to have a better love life. Those are the people that are interested to work with me.
I love that there's a choice to work with you versus, like you said, an intervention.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's been the key to a lot of ways of healing even. And what exactly is your story, Paul?
I was raised in a family of abuse, Jenny, and it was just a kind of an angry household. You know, I can really best illustrate it by a little story. The other day I was out walking, and while I was walking, I found a walking stick. On one side of the stick is really smooth, great place for your hand, and it's about 3.5 feet tall. But the other side of the stick has some points on it and just some knots on it. I call this the naughty side of the stick, and this is the nice side of the stick. Santa Claus, I'm sure, has a stick just like that. That's how you get your presents at Christmas, Jenny. I'm sure you didn't know that, but that's how it comes. I found myself as an adult having still residual anger on that naughty side of the stick. It was really a culture that I learned. There was humor, angry humor. There were angry words. There were the put downs, the smack talk, the overriding somebody when somebody else is talking. You're interrupting and overriding them. All those little habits of the angry culture were those were the first habits that I learned. And I really think that we learn things from our parents. So it's more of a generational thing, not a genetic thing, a generational thing, something that's passed down.
Oh, I love that. So for our audience who's listening in on the podcast, those of us on YouTube get to see Paul's actual walking stick. He held up this beautiful white wood stick, and one side was actually really quite smooth, and the other side, it looked like a stick that fell off a tree, which is very rough on the end. That I really like the way you kind of epitomize how life can be, right? I mean, I also grew up in a very strict household. My parents were all farmers. Both sides of them were farmers, where if you didn't do one thing, you would actually die. It wasn't negotiable, right? Because if we couldn't grow food, you didn't eat. You couldn't trade it for other things. I remember one of my mom's favorite stories was that they only got one chicken egg a year for your birthday. That was your birthday present, Paul. Mm-hmm. And one of my uncles, my mother came from a family of 9. She was the 4th daughter. 5 sons came after her. One of my uncles, the beloved son All right, we're talking about an Asian culture back in the day where sons are prized and very precious. One of the boys stole a chicken egg, and she said, quite gleefully, I think, Shh, Mom, you didn't hear this part. He had his butt beat. He had his butt beat, Paul, because it wasn't his birthday. You weren't supposed to get that egg. And on one side of it, coming from our Western plentiful world where, you could get an egg every day if you could afford it, right? Versus, so it's kind of like, wow, this is abuse. And on the other side of it, that extreme poverty they were coming from, that egg he stole was a week's worth of meat for the entire family.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So, kind of like, I understand why my grandparents beat him. At the same time, I would never deny my children an egg anytime they wanted.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it was that way for me. I'm number 10 of 11 children, so I'm very similar, except my father is number 15 of 19 children. So as far as the generations go, Jenny, I think we're improving from 19 children down to my father only had 11. I only have 8. And then my children only having 3, Jenny. I just don't get it. How come I can't get more grandchildren? I want more grandchildren. What is the problem here? And so that's one of the things that I learned, Jenny, that there are things that are out of your control, like having grandchildren. It's really kind of out of my control. So we laugh about it, but it's not. It's funny, but it's not that funny, because what I realized when I was angry is that I was moving over into somebody else's lane, trying to make decisions for them, and then I'd be annoyed if they didn't take my suggestions or my telling them what to do. If they didn't do that, it was annoying to me. And so what happened, and what was prevalent in my family, is we'd stack annoyance on top of annoyance, on top of annoyance, on top of annoyance, until there was a flash. And then you just have this burst of anger, and then you tamp back down, and then you started the process all over again, getting annoyed until you're angry again. And that was kind of the process in the family. I realized at age 35 that I was blaming my father for all that type of awkwardness, that when you flash in public, it's like someone having an accident in the swimming pool.
Yeah.
Everybody scatters. It wasn't me, it wasn't me, it wasn't me. And it just really, you repel people in those circumstances. And it happened in the family, it happened in public. I didn't want to do that anymore. That was my verbiage too, that I said, I don't want to be angry. It's kind of a double negative where you multiply 2 negative numbers together, they become positive. It doesn't work in relationships. It only works in math. And it's really interesting that that it took me until age 35 to realize, oh, I'm responsible for my own actions. My father was already gone. He had already passed away 7 years before that time. Here I am still blaming him for these problems. So I realized at 35, I've got to change my ways. It's too little, too late. And eventually was part of the demise of my first marriage. After 23 and a half years and 8 children, that we just separated. What happened then, Jenny, was interesting. I had primary custody of the 5 remaining children in the home. On my weekends off, where she had the children, I would make up a destination date. I'd find someone online. They'd be in a different city, I'd be in a different city. We'd pick a city to meet in. We'd have a date, and then we'd go back home. I called that destination dating, and I did it for about 1.5 years. So I went to Jacksonville, Florida, Daytona Beach, Florida, Atlanta, Georgia, Columbia, South Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina, New York City, Kansas City, Salt Lake City, Phoenix, Las Vegas, Cabo San Lucas, a lot of other cities that I went to. I spent more than $10,000 just on this destination dating. And it's like the lyrics of that song, looking for love in all the wrong places. And I didn't find anything. So I thought I had a line on someone that I was interested in. I felt she was interested too. It didn't work out, but I was in Phoenix, ended up in Phoenix for this person. And at that time, my wife decided she was going to go back and live with her parents in California. So she said she wanted the children back after 3.5 years of not having primary custody of the children. She wanted them back. And so realizing that they would have an opportunity to be with their grandparents, I never had that opportunity growing up. Being number 10 of 11, my grandparents were they were gone. I never met either one of my grandfathers, but and I met my grandmothers. I had one nice and one not so nice, one nice, one naughty, I guess, and and I wanted my children to have that opportunity to just have some interaction with their grandparents. So I relinquished the primary custody to my ex-wife. Now I'm all alone in Phoenix. I get a call from my sister, my older sister. I'm sandwiched between two girls, so I'm a thorn between two roses. Older sister, younger sister, and then all the rest are boys. And so I get a call from this older sister, and she says, I have a neighbor that I want to introduce to you. My sister lives 7 hours away. I said, you know what? I just finished destination dating. I don't want to do that again. It didn't work out. She says, oh, come on. And I'm as number 10 of 11, you have to do what big sister says. So I said, all right, well, I'll email her. What kind of relationship, Jenny, can you develop with email? I thought it would be anything. But we started emailing and really turned a little bit interesting. I finally get bravery up enough after 4 or 5 exchanges of emails to ask her, well, how many husbands have you had? And she wrote back and said, counting the 5 that are buried in the backyard. And I thought that was hilarious. I thought, I've got a live one here. I've got somebody who's got some personality. Somebody's got a sense of humor. And so I started pursuing, this might be fun, I thought. So I started pursuing it a little bit more and then ended up moving up by my sister and dating this woman. And we became very close, became serious. Now it's time for Big Brother approval. So Big Brother lives 300 miles north, kind of where you're at. And that, when I got to my brother's house, we went in, and my sister-in-law immediately pulled her aside and said, the only emotion that the Zolman family learned growing up was anger. At first I said, denied it. Then it made me mad. And I thought, she really nailed it. We're still an angry group. We're still have that anger, that residual anger. And I decided then and there that if that's the perception of the Zolman family, I really needed to change that perception. I had an opportunity here to change that perception. So I started reading the color code, and then I started reading the 5 love languages. Really liked the principles of the 5 love languages. I didn't get it. Coming from the angry background that I came from, I did not get the principles. I liked the principles, but I didn't get the application of the love languages. You mean, Dr. Chapman, that if I guess what Jenny's love language is and cater to that, we're going to be buddies? I didn't come from love, but that doesn't sound like love either. And I'm a bad guesser. And I've been a bad guesser all my life, and that's why I'm having all these problems. So I'm blaming bad guessing on my problems again blaming. That didn't work for me. So the next thing that Dr. Chapman had for me, Jenny, was that, well, if I take this survey, I can find out what my love language is. Well, Dr. Chapman, what do I do with that? Advertise? Hello, Jenny. I'm Gifts. What do you have for me today? Oh, that's really awkward. I'm done with awkward. I've already been through awkward already. So that didn't work for me either. But I had an idea that as even as dysfunctional as our family was growing up, and with all the anger and everything, we liked playing games. And when we got together, it just kind of brought the family together. I thought, well, what if I could make this a game? So I contacted Dr. Chapman and asked him, are you licensing those little pictures, those little icons for each one of the love languages? And his attorney wrote me back and said, no, we're not doing that at this time. So I still like the idea. So I contacted an attorney I knew here in town. He's an intellectual property attorney, copyright attorney. And he said this: theory, like the love language theory, is not copyrightable. Application is. So how you use that theory is copyrightable. So what I did was I made my own icons, and then I put them on a cube.
Nice.
So here you see the cube. I've got, for the listeners that can't see the cube, I've got 2 hands together forming into a heart. From that heart, I have a little conversation bubble, a flyout that you see in a cartoon. That what that represents is the words from the heart. So this would be the love language of words. I'm turning the cube. Now I've got a hand that's holding an hourglass. That hourglass signifies time. So that would be the love language for time. I've got a hand holding a platter on the next side of the cube. That would signify service.
Mm-hmm.
A hand holding a gift,
Nice.
signifying gifts. And then the last love language, two hands touching one another for touch. 6 sides on the cube. The last side, I have a hand holding a question mark. That means surprise me. So I just named it surprise me. Jenny, there's just 2 instructions. You roll the cube every day. Whatever it lands on, that's the love language you practice giving away all day that day, all day to everybody. At the time I created this, I was single. I did not have a significant other like Dr. Chapman suggests, that you do this with your significant other.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have the romantic association at the time. So I said, what the heck am I going to do? And I realized, oh, I can just love everybody. For me to make the change from anger and have a replacement behavior of love, this was perfect because all day long, I was loving everybody that I came in contact with, sending out that whatever love language I rolled. What happened, Jenny, is that I started noticing that people would light up. When I was practicing a specific love language, they would light up. When they light up, I realized, oh, that's probably their primary or secondary love language. Mm-hmm. So no longer do you have to pause the relationship. Excuse me. Could you just take a minute and take this survey so I can know how to love you? Mm-hmm. You don't have to do that awkward anymore. We're done with awkward. Just watch, use your observation skills. When they light up, that's what they like. Just take a mental note for that person. Just wash, rinse, repeat. Do that over and over again. As you're going through this over a 30-day period, you actually give away all 5 love languages so that you know them backward and forward. And the best part about that, Jenny, is that it gives you the eyes to see and the peripheral vision to see it when it comes your way so that you can respond appropriately.
I love that. So audience, what you, the listeners, you missed out. So you're going to have to go to the YouTube recording, was this amazing dice that Paul had specialized the faces so that every face of the dice was one of the love languages, and then one bonus side was kind of choose as you will that day. Correct, Paul? And I just think it's exceptional. The story of yours that went from your destination dating, which I think I'm going to implement with my husband. I'll be like, honey, I want to meet you in Vegas next week. We live together, but you know,
I like
that, right? And then that whole realization when you brought her home to meet your family that your only language was anger. I can totally resonate with that, Paul. Folks, a lot of us, our parents and the generations that we grew up with, this love languages thing is very foreign to them. And or we may come from more than anger, because for me, it was 2-sided. One was anger. That was supposed to be love. It was mostly fear from both my parents because they came from poverty. And 2, it was acts of service, and that's it. And they joke, there's a lot of joking videos now about Asian parents. They bring you fruit all the time. And that you were supposed to understand that they loved you from the fruit that they would bring to you, all cut up nicely, fresh and chilled, you know, when you're doing your homework. And that was their love language. It was the only language that was allowed in the Asian culture. Like kind of just for me, I know other cultures do this too. And that was it. I never heard I love you. I never felt I love you. I never was touched or hugged as a child. You were just supposed to understand your parents worked really hard for you. And if you did not answer the other side of the coin with straight A's and bringing honor to your family, that was anger. Mm-hmm. 2 sides of the same. That was it. And I love this play aspect that you put in, Paul, with your dice of love. He called it a cube, which I like it too. So your cube dice of love. Tell me, you like to talk about being a love language linguist. What does that mean?
For me, Jenny, that's a great question. What I realized was that after a 30-day period, and it's just not for a 30-day program, I've been rolling the die since I've had this copyright in 2017. So over a 30-day period, though, you have enough chances to actually give away all 5 love languages so that you know them backwards and forwards. That makes you a love language linguist. You know them all. You're fluent in all of them to give it away. And then that is what gives you the eyes to see it, that peripheral vision you need to see it. And the improved communication is what it really is. That I think I've missed, Jenny, a lot of opportunities in my life where people were loving on me, but it wasn't my love language. It wasn't my primary love language. Dr. Chapman talks a lot about that people think that if they give their primary love language away, they're going to get it back. To me, that's not love at all. Mm-hmm. That's reciprocity. That's a business transaction. Yeah. Love isn't about let's make a deal. Mm-hmm. It's not about that at all. It's about sending it out without any regard of it ever coming back, but trusting the universe, the laws of the universe, the law of the harvest, the law of karma, the law of attraction. All those laws are laws of the universe that say you send something out, it's going to come right back to you.
It's going to come back to you multifold.
Absolutely.
Right. I think I love this giving without expectation, and then it comes back more than you ever imagined. Is what I'm hearing.
Anger's the same way, but yes. You don't want that back multifold.
No.
So,
well, I mean, look.
Quit sending it out. No.
Exactly, and it's a twist, right, on the wearing rose-colored glasses, Paul, because you know, some people have memories and they refuse to look at how hard something really was, right? And I love that you can have an honest conversation about where you came from. And yet that's going to temper where you're going in, the facing forward, because you are actively putting on rose-colored lenses now going forward, because that's going to color what you get back.
Yeah. Yes and no, Jenny. And I think that, let me clarify this just a little bit. I'm not really putting on rose-colored glasses because that kind of glosses over a lot. The whole idea of putting on rose-colored glasses glosses over the ideas that person has faults. I'm not discounting that everybody has faults. I'm understanding that, absolutely understanding that. But what the focus now is on what's right about that person. What can I love about that person? Genuine things that you can love. Be genuine about it. We're not putting those rose-colored glasses on to gloss over their mistakes. We're just focusing on what they do right and what's good about that person. You know, intrinsically, I think people are 80 to 90% all good. And that maybe that 10 to 20%, they've got faults and they've got make mistakes and they're bad. And they might be bad, or they might be just really a lot more good. And maybe there's someone out there that's 51% good and 49% bad. They can focus on being good and enlarge that. I love the analogy of a magnifying glass, that whatever you magnify is going to grow. We, as a society and through the media, seem to focus on the negative. We focus on the faults of people. And that's a boomerang coming right back at you. And when it comes back down, as you throw it up in the sky, the gravity's going to increase the speed, and it's going to come back with a force that is going to be unbelievable. You don't want to catch that boomerang. You might take your hand off. And it's just something that you don't want, that anger in that capacity to come right back at you. So quit sending it out. That's all I'm saying. Focus, instead of what's wrong with that person, focus on what's right with that person. I found that when I focused on what's wrong with that person, that's what started those stair steps of annoyance that got me to the flashes of anger. Now, Jenny, what the process is, I focus on the kindness on top of kindness, on top of kindness, on top of kindness, that gets you to the higher levels of love. These are basic. 5 love languages is absolutely basic material. We should all know it. But if, as we stair step it, it'll get you to charity, it gets you to compassion, it gets you to forgiveness, intimacy, empathy, sympathy, all those higher laws of love. And there really are higher laws of love. You can't get there unless you are nice. If you think you're going to get forgiveness by insult, you're wrong. It's not going to happen. It's by kindness, by kindness, by kindness. And then their hearts are softened. That's when you get to forgiveness.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, Paul, what we could call those glasses instead of rose color is just love colored. You meet me there halfway. I think
perfect.
the emphasis is the fact that we can focus on someone's shortcomings or choose the other side of it, which is, in my neurolinguistic programming language, is to chunk up. We look and pull back and look at that as a whole person doing their very best in their humanity, because you would want the same done for you.
Perfect.
Yeah?
I love that, Jenny.
I think this is the key. So what's the best way for them to get their hands on your dice?
Best way is right through my website. I did a kind of a play on words. It's called Roll of Love, but ROLL is outside of you. ROLE is the change that happens within you. ROLE of love.com. And you can get the die. I do have a book available. And if you want to record what you rolled, what opportunities you saw to love in that way, and what you did about those opportunities, I have a journal available too. I have it in a bundled format right now on sale for your listeners, that it's about 20% off the retail price. It's only $29.99. It's a whole lot less than just even one therapy session, and it's going to last a whole lot longer than one therapy session would. It takes 2 seconds to roll the die in the morning. It sets the tone for the day. You're going to get more return on your investment from that 2 seconds, taking that consciously, intentionally loving all day long, than you would with any other investment. This is a great investment.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for that segue. They now have had research that says the combination of therapy with a coach is like super effective. Did you know that? They just came out with this research. And so I am going to go forward, listener and watcher on YouTube, go and get Paul's dice, and then go and get my free gift for you at dancingtheheal.com, so you can do dancing and myofascial release, and then work with either one of us to continue in your self-health. Yeah? All right, Paul, you're going to have to come back, because I feel like we should have a session where we just roll the dice and come up with activities we're going to do for our loved ones, I think.
I would love that. That would be a wonderful activity.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for coming. We'll see you back here again soon. Okay, Paul?
Thank you,
and
Jenny.
Audience, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening to Dance to Heal with Jenny C. Cohen. Come back next time to hear stories of recovery through movement and learn more ways that you can move your body. To work with me and continue your journey, visit OutsideInRecovery.com. Are you ready to move?